The letter trembled in my hands, its pristine white envelope mocking the chaos it was about to unleash. 5 years of carefully constructed peace threatened to crumble at the sight of that familiar, looping handwriting. Emma's handwriting. My name is Heidi, and until 5 years ago, I thought I knew exactly who I was: a successful corporate lawyer, a loving wife, and most importantly, a loyal twin sister. Now, I'm still a lawyer, but the other parts of my identity were shattered by a single act of betrayal. "You don't have to open it," Serenity said, placing a steaming mug of chamomile tea on my desk. My mentor's presence was as comforting as always, her silver-streaked hair catching the afternoon light filtering through my office windows. I do, though. I turn the envelope over. If I don't, it'll haunt me. Like everything else hasn't, Serenity perched on the edge of my desk, her eyes soft with understanding. "You've come so far, Heidi. Look at what you've built." She was right. The wall behind me was covered in thank you cards from women I'd helped, wives betrayed by unfaithful husbands, sisters deceived by siblings, daughters abandoned by mothers. Each card represented a small victory, a step toward healing for someone else, even as I struggled with my own wounds. "Did I tell you about yesterday's client?" I asked, desperately trying to delay the inevitable. She reminded me so much of myself from 5 years ago. Lost, confused, angry. "Stop deflecting," Serenity chided gently. "Open the letter." With trembling fingers, I tore open the envelope. The paper inside was expensive, thick, the kind used for formal invitations. My stomach lurched as I unfolded it. "She's getting married," I whispered, the words burning my throat, "to some guy named Terrence. And? And she wants me there, as her maid of honor." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "Because we're sisters, twins, because blood is thicker than water." Her words, not mine. Serenity took the invitation from my shaking hands. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking about Bradley," I admitted. About how she seduced my husband, then convinced him I was the one having an affair. About how she watched me lose everything: my marriage, my reputation, my trust in people, and said nothing. My phone buzzed. A text from Miguel, my colleague. "Court prep in 15, you ready?" "I should go," I said, standing up. "The Stevens case won't win itself." Serenity caught my arm. "Heidi, you've spent 5 years helping other women find justice. Maybe it's time you found yours." "By attending my sister's wedding?" I scoffed. "What kind of justice is that?" "The kind that shows you're stronger than her betrayal. The kind that proves you've rebuilt yourself into something better than what she tried to destroy." My phone buzzed again. Miguel. Brought coffee. The good kind. Despite everything, I smiled. Miguel had been a constant source of support since I joined the firm, his quiet strength helping me through countless difficult cases. Sometimes I caught him looking at me with something more than friendly concern, but I wasn't ready. "Not yet. I have to go," I said, gathering my files. "Court waits for no one." "Think about what I said," Serenity called after me. "Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else. It's about showing them they failed to destroy you." In the elevator, I caught my reflection in the polished doors. At 33, I looked different from the woman I was 5 years ago. Stronger, sharper, more defined. Emma and I might share the same face, but time and pain had carved unique lines into mine. Miguel was waiting by the conference room, 2 coffee cups in hand. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Something like that," I replied, accepting the coffee. "My sister's getting married." His eyebrows shot up. "The sister? The one who—" "Yes, that sister." He studied my face carefully. "What are you going to do?" The invitation burned in my bag like a hot coal. 5 years of helping other women find justice, and here was my chance to face my own demons. But at what cost? "I don't know," I answered honestly. "But right now, we have a case to win." As we walked into the conference room, I felt the weight of Emma's invitation like a stone in my stomach. Serenity's words echoed in my mind. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time to show Emma exactly who I'd become in the wake of her betrayal. Maybe it was time to stop running from the past and face it head on. But first, I had a court case to win. One battle at a time. The cafe buzzed with mid-morning energy, but I barely noticed the clinking cups and murmured conversations. My attention was fixed on the door, waiting for the familiar face that was both mine and not mine. "You came," Emma said, sliding into the seat across from me. She looked exactly like me, yet completely different, her hair longer, styled in loose waves, her outfit more expensive than my practical suit. "I almost didn't," I replied, wrapping my hands around my untouched coffee. "Why now, Emma? 5 years of silence and suddenly you want to talk?" She fidgeted with her engagement ring, a massive diamond that caught the sunlight. "I'm getting married." "So I heard. Congratulations." The words tasted like ash in my mouth. "Heidi, please." Emma leaned forward, her eyes, our mother's eyes, pleading. "I know I hurt you. I know what I did was unforgivable. Do you?" I cut her off. "Do you really know what it felt like? Coming home to find Bradley's clothes gone? Having him tell everyone I was the one who cheated? Watching my own twin sister pretend she knew nothing about it?" A waitress approached our table, then quickly retreated, sensing the tension. "I was scared," Emma whispered. "I was jealous. You had everything, the perfect marriage, the successful career, Mom's approval. I laughed, harsh and bitter. And now you have Bradley. How's that working out for you?" Emma flinched. We're not together anymore. Haven't been for years." That stopped me cold. "What?" "He left. 6 months after everything. Said he couldn't trust someone who'd helped destroy their own sister." She smiled sadly. "Karma, I guess." My phone vibrated. "Miguel. Court prep done. Want to grab lunch?" I ignored it, focusing on Emma. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I'm getting married to an amazing man who deserves the truth. Because I miss my sister. Because I'm tired of carrying this guilt." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Because I want you to be my maid of honor." "Are you insane?" I pushed my chair back, the legs scraping against the floor. "You want me to stand beside you and celebrate your happiness after what you did?" "I want a chance to make things right." Emma's voice rose, drawing attention from nearby tables. "Terrence doesn't know about any of this. He thinks we just drifted apart because of our careers. He wants to meet his future sister-in-law." "So this is about keeping your lies intact," I said flatly. "Protecting your perfect image." "No, it's about—" My phone buzzed again. This time it was Serenity. "Remember what we talked about. Sometimes facing our demons sets us free." Emma was still talking, her words tumbling out in a desperate stream. "Mom's been asking about you. She misses you at family dinners, and I know you miss her too. Please, Heidi, just think about it." I stood up, gathering my bag. "You want to know what I think, Emma? I think you're scared. Scared that your perfect new life will crumble if Terrence finds out who you really are. Scared that karma isn't done with you yet." "That's not fair," she protested. "Fair?" I leaned across the table, lowering my voice. "Was it fair when you watched me lose everything? When you let me think I was crazy for suspecting Bradley? When you stood by and said nothing while our entire family turned against me?" Emma's face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I know it's not enough, but I am so sorry." Looking at her tear-stained face, I felt a familiar ache in my chest. Despite everything, she was still my twin. Still the person who'd shared my birthday cakes, my childhood secrets, my dreams. "I'll think about it," I said finally. "That's all I can promise." Hope flickered in her eyes. "Really?" "Don't push it." I turned to leave, then paused. "Does Mom really miss me?" "Every day." Emma wiped her eyes. "She keeps your favorite coffee mug right next to hers. Refuses to let anyone else use it." Something inside me cracked a little. I nodded once, not trusting myself to speak, and walked out of the cafe. Outside, the spring air was crisp and clean. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Miguel, 2 texts from Serenity. My fingers hovered over Miguel's number, tempted to call him, to hear his steady voice tell me everything would be okay. Instead, I texted Emma, "Send me the wedding details. I'm not promising anything, but I'll think about it." Her response was immediate. "Thank you. I know I don't deserve it." "No," I typed back. "You don't." As I walked back to my office, I thought about Bradley, about karma, about the strange twists life takes. Maybe Serenity was right. Maybe facing my demons wasn't about revenge at all. Maybe it was about proving that they hadn't won. Mom's house looked exactly the same. White shutters, red door, rose bushes lining the walkway. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, watching people arrive for the family dinner Emma had orchestrated. My phone lit up. Miguel, you've got this. Call if you need backup. Taking a deep breath, I grabbed the bottle of wine I'd brought and walked up the familiar path. Before I could knock, the door swung open. Heidi! Mom pulled me into a fierce hug, her familiar lavender perfume wrapping around me. Oh, sweetheart, I've missed you so much. Hi, Mom, I managed, fighting back tears. Over her shoulder, I saw my coffee mug on the kitchen counter, exactly where Emma said it would be. Come in, come in. She ushered me inside. Emma and Terrence are already here, and your Aunt Linda just arrived. The house was full of familiar faces, some who'd believed Bradley's lies, others who'd tried to stay neutral. They all turned to stare as I entered the living room. Emma stood by the fireplace with a tall, well-dressed man. Terrence, I assumed. She wore an anxious smile, her hand clutching his arm. Heidi, Terrence stepped forward, beaming. Finally, I've heard so much about you. Have you? I couldn't help the edge in my voice. Emma flinched. Mom jumped in, taking the wine bottle from my hands. Let's open this, shall we? Dinner's almost ready. The evening progressed like a carefully choreographed dance. Aunt Linda talked about her garden. Uncle Pete discussed politics. Everyone avoided mentioning Bradley or the past 5 years. During dinner, I watched Emma and Terrence interact. He seemed genuine, attentive, everything Bradley hadn't been. She looked at him with real love, but there was fear in her eyes whenever she glanced my way. So, Heidi, Terrence said during dessert, Emma tells me you're a corporate lawyer. That must be fascinating. Actually, I specialize in family law now. I met Emma's gaze across the table. I help people who've been betrayed by those closest to them. The table went quiet. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. That's wonderful, Terrence said, clearly sensing the tension but not understanding it. Making a difference in people's lives. Emma stood abruptly. Heidi, could you help me with the coffee? In the kitchen, she rounded on me. Please don't do this. Do what? Tell the truth? He doesn't need to know. What you did. I grabbed the coffee pot, my hands shaking. How you destroyed my marriage? My life? I'm trying to make things right, Emma's voice cracked. I love him, Heidi. He's not Bradley. What we have is real. Built on lies. Built on who I am now. She touched my arm. I jerked away, nearly dropping the coffee pot. I'm not that person anymore. Please just give me a chance to prove it. Mom appeared in the doorway. Everything okay in here? Fine, we said in unison, an old twin habit we'd never quite lost. Back in the dining room, Terrence was showing everyone their wedding venue photos on his phone. The ceremony will be at sunset, he was saying. Emma's always wanted a sunset wedding. No, she hasn't, I said before I could stop myself. She's always wanted a morning wedding, in the garden like Mom and Dad had. Emma's face went white. Terrence looked confused. But you said... I changed my mind, Emma cut in quickly. People change, right? They certainly do, I murmured. After dessert, as people started leaving, Terrence pulled me aside. I know there's something going on between you and Emma. She won't talk about it, but I hope you'll be at the wedding. It would mean everything to her. Looking at his earnest face, I felt a sudden, overwhelming sadness. He had no idea what he was walking into. I'll think about it, I said, the same answer I'd given Emma. Mom walked me to my car, her arm linked through mine. It's been too long, sweetheart. Please don't stay away anymore. I'm sorry, Mom. It's just been hard. She squeezed my arm. I know there's more to what happened with Bradley than either of you have told me, but your sisters, twins, whatever it is, can't you try to work through it? I looked back at the house, where Emma stood in the doorway with Terrence, his arm around her waist. She'd gotten everything she wanted. A fresh start, a new love, a clean slate. Some things can't be fixed, Mom. But some things can be forgiven, she said softly, even if they can't be forgotten. I drove home in silence, my mind spinning. Emma's fear, Terrence's innocence, Mom's hope for reconciliation. It all swirled together like a storm brewing on the horizon. My phone buzzed. Emma, thank you for coming. I meant what I said. I want to make things right. I didn't respond. Instead, I called Miguel. Hey, his warm voice answered. How did it go? I need a drink, I said. Several drinks. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Miguel arrived with a bottle of tequila and a sympathetic smile. We sat on my apartment balcony, the city lights twinkling below us like fallen stars. So, he poured 2 shots. Was it as bad as you expected? Worse. I knocked back the tequila, welcoming the burn. You should have seen her, Miguel, playing the perfect bride-to-be, acting like the past never happened. And the fiancé? Completely clueless. He thinks we just grew apart because of our careers. I laughed bitterly. He actually seems like a good guy. Successful businessman, kind eyes, the whole package. Unlike Bradley, Miguel's voice was careful, measured. Bradley had kind eyes too. I reached for the bottle. Right up until he didn't. My phone buzzed. Serenity. Coming by the office tomorrow? We should talk. You know, Miguel said, taking the bottle from me. I've known you for 3 years, and this is the most you've ever talked about what happened. Because talking about it makes it real. I stared at the city below. Makes me remember how stupid I was. You weren't stupid. You were betrayed. Same thing. I stood up, needing to move. I should have seen it coming. The late nights at work, the secret phone calls, the way Emma always seemed to know exactly where Bradley was. Miguel followed me into the kitchen. Stop, you're doing that thing again. What thing? That thing where you blame yourself for other people's choices. He caught my arm, turning me to face him. Emma and Bradley chose to betray you. That's on them, not you. His hand was warm on my skin, his face close enough that I could see the concern in his dark eyes. For a moment, I let myself imagine leaning in, letting go of the past, starting something new. My phone buzzed again. Emma, can we meet tomorrow? There's something I need to tell you. The moment shattered. I stepped back, creating distance between Miguel and me. I should get some sleep, I said. Early court tomorrow. Heidi. Miguel ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in his gesture. You can't keep running forever. I'm not running. I'm surviving. The next morning, I met Serenity in her office. She listened as I recounted the family dinner, her expression growing more concerned with each detail. So, what are you going to do? She asked when I finished. Emma wants to meet again, says she has something to tell me. And I agreed. God knows why. I collapsed into her leather chair. What's wrong with me, Serenity? Nothing's wrong with you. She perched on her desk. You're finally facing your past instead of running from it. That's progress. It doesn't feel like progress. It feels like picking at a scab. Sometimes wounds need air to heal properly. My phone lit up. Emma, coffee shop in an hour? Go, Serenity urged. Whatever she has to say, you're strong enough to hear it. The coffee shop was quieter this time. Emma sat at a corner table, her designer outfit a sharp contrast to her troubled expression. Thanks for coming, she said as I sat down. Make it quick. I have court at 11. I told Terrence some of it. The words tumbled out. Not everything, but I told him I'd done something terrible to you, something unforgivable. I felt the blood drain from my face. What exactly did you tell him? That I betrayed you, that it involved Bradley. I didn't give details, but she twisted her engagement ring. He wants to postpone the wedding. Good. The word came out sharper than I intended. At least he has some sense. Please, Emma's voice cracked. I can't lose him too. Not like this. Like what? Because of your own actions? Your own choices? I leaned forward. Welcome to consequences, Emma. They're not fun, are they? I know I deserve this, she whispered, but Terrence doesn't. He's a good man. Then he deserves the truth. Will you... She hesitated. Will you tell him? The question hung between us like a loaded gun. I could destroy her relationship with a few simple words, just as she had destroyed mine. No, I said finally. That's your job, your truth to tell. Relief flooded her face, followed quickly by fear. What if he leaves? Then he leaves. I stood up, gathering my things. But at least you'll know you finally did the right thing. As I walked to the courthouse, my phone buzzed with a message from Miguel. Lunch later, I make a mean hangover cure. Despite everything, I smiled. Maybe Serenity was right. Maybe facing the past wasn't about picking at scabs. Maybe it was about making room for something new to grow. I texted back, "Only if you promise not to lecture me about running from my problems." His response was immediate. "No promises, but I'll bring chocolate." 3 days before the wedding, Terrence showed up at my office unannounced. He stood in my doorway, looking lost in his expensive suit. "Can we talk?" he asked. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "I assume Emma told you everything?" "Some." He sat down heavily. "Not all. I need to hear your side." Miguel appeared with case files, saw Terrence, and quickly retreated, closing the door behind him. My side? I leaned back in my chair. "Are you sure you want to hear it?" "Please." His voice was rough. "I love her, Heidi, but I need to know what I'm walking into." I studied him for a moment, seeing the pain in his eyes, the same pain I'd seen in my own reflection 5 years ago. "Bradley was my husband," I began. "We were happy, or I thought we were. Emma was always around, always supportive. Until she wasn't. She said there was an affair. There was." I kept my voice steady. "But not mine. They were sleeping together for months. Then they decided to cover their tracks by making everyone believe I was the cheater." Terrence's face went pale. "How?" "They were clever. Emma would tell Bradley where I was going, what I was doing. He'd show up at the same places, make it look like we were meeting secretly. Then he'd tell everyone he'd caught me having an affair. And Emma played the supportive sister perfectly, consoled him, consoled me, all while knowing the truth." My hands clenched under the desk. By the time I figured it out, it was too late. Everyone believed them. Terrence stood abruptly, pacing the office. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you asked. Because you deserve to know who you're marrying." "She says she's changed." "Maybe she has." I shrugged. "Or maybe she's just gotten better at hiding who she really is." He stopped pacing, staring out my office window. "The wedding's in 3 days." "I know. Are you coming?" The question I'd been avoiding for weeks. The invitation sat in my desk drawer, untouched since Emma had given it to me. "I haven't decided." He turned to face me. "If you do come, will you tell everyone? Would you blame me if I did?" "No." He ran a hand over his face. "God help me, but no." My phone buzzed. "Emma, did Terrence come to see you?" I ignored it. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Thank you for telling me the truth." After he left, Miguel slipped into my office. "Everything okay?" "No." I pulled out the wedding invitation. "Nothing's okay." He perched on the edge of my desk. "Want to talk about it? Want to get drunk instead?" "Heidi." His hand covered mine. "You can't keep drowning this in tequila. Watch me." "No." He squeezed my hand. "I won't. Because you're better than this. Because you deserve better than this." I looked at our joined hands, feeling the warmth of his skin against mine. What if I'm not? What if this is all I get? "Then you're not looking hard enough." He tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his eyes. "There's more to life than revenge. More to you than what they did." My phone buzzed again. "Emma, please, whatever you told him, please help me fix this." "She wants me to fix it," I said, showing Miguel the message. "After everything, she wants me to help her." "What do you want?" The question hit me like a physical blow. What did I want? Revenge? Justice? Peace? I want... My voice cracked. "I want to stop feeling like this. Like I'm still that person they destroyed." Miguel's thumb brushed across my cheek, wiping away tears I hadn't realized were falling. "Then don't be. Be the person who survived, who rebuilt, who's strong enough to face them." By going to the wedding? By doing whatever feels right to you, not what hurts the most. I looked at the invitation again, thinking about Terrence's face when he heard the truth, about Emma's desperate texts, about the weight I'd carried for 5 years. Will you come with me? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Miguel's eyes widened. To the wedding? As my date, my backup, I gestured vaguely. Whatever. A slow smile spread across his face. Whatever? Don't push it. Wouldn't dream of it. He stood up, still holding my hand. But first, lunch. Real food, no tequila. I let him pull me to my feet, feeling something shift inside me. Maybe it wasn't about revenge anymore. Maybe it was about proving I could walk into that wedding as someone new, someone stronger, someone who had survived. I texted Emma back, I'll be there, but not to fix anything. Some things need to stay broken. Her response was immediate. Thank you, I understand. But she didn't. Not yet. She would. The wedding venue was exactly as pretentious as I expected. A restored mansion with manicured gardens and a view of the city skyline. Miguel whistled low as we pulled up in his car. Your sister doesn't do anything small, does she? Never has. I smoothed my dark blue dress, a deliberate choice not to wear the pale pink Emma had suggested for family. Ready? Are you? Before I could answer, Mom appeared at the entrance. Heidi, thank goodness you're here. Emma's asking for you. Miguel squeezed my hand. Go, I'll find our seats. The bridal suite was chaos. Flowers, makeup artists, photographers, and in the middle of it all, Emma in her wedding gown, looking like she might throw up. Everyone out, she said when she saw me. Please, I need to talk to my sister. The room cleared quickly, leaving us alone with our reflections in the full-length mirror. 2 identical faces, one crowned in white. Terrence almost called it off, Emma said, her voice shaking, after he talked to you. But he didn't. No. She turned to face me. He said he needed time to think. Then he came back and said everyone deserves a second chance. Lucky you. Heidi, please. She reached for my hand. I stepped back. I told him everything, every detail. About Bradley, about the lies, about how I destroyed your life because I was jealous and stupid and... Stop. My voice cut through her rambling. This isn't about you feeling better about what you did. Then what is it about? It's about consequences, Emma, real ones, not just saying sorry and expecting everything to be fixed. A knock at the door interrupted us. Mom poked her head in. 10 minutes, girls. Emma, the photographer, wants some final shots. I'll be right there. Emma turned back to me. Will you stand with me during the ceremony? No. I moved toward the door. I'm here because you asked, because Mom hoped. That's all. In the hallway, I nearly collided with someone coming around the corner. My heart stopped. Bradley. He looked older, grayer, but still handsome in his suit. Heidi. I didn't know you'd be here. Clearly. I tried to step around him. He blocked my path. Can we talk? Please? I've wanted to tell you, get out of my way. My voice was ice. Or I'll scream, and everyone will come running to see what the problem is, including your new girlfriend in the 3rd row. He paled but stepped aside. I hurried down the hall, my heels clicking on the marble floor, and nearly ran into Miguel. Hey, whoa. He caught my shoulders. What's wrong? Bradley's here. The words came out in a rush. He's here, Miguel. Why is he here? Want me to throw him out? I can throw him out. Despite everything, I laughed. My hero. Always. He straightened my necklace, his fingers lingering on my collarbone. What do you need? Just stay close? I can do that. The ceremony started on schedule. I sat between Miguel and Mom, watching Emma float down the aisle on our father's arm. Terrence stood at the altar, looking both nervous and determined. Dearly beloved, the officiant began. I felt Bradley's eyes on me from somewhere behind us. Miguel's hand found mine, warm and steady. If anyone knows any reason why these two should not be joined in marriage... My heart pounded. This was my chance. I could stand up right now, tell everyone the truth about Emma, about Bradley, about all of it. Miguel's thumb stroked my palm, grounding me. The moment passed. The ceremony continued. I do, Emma said, her voice clear and strong. I do, Terrence replied, looking at her like she hung the moon. Mom dabbed at her eyes beside me. Both my girls should have had this, she whispered. I did have this, I whispered back. Emma made sure it didn't last. The newlyweds turned to face their guests. Emma's eyes found mine in the crowd, pleading, hopeful. Ready for the reception? Miguel asked as people began filing out. No, I stood up, straightening my spine. But I'm going anyway. That's my girl. I caught his slight blush at the words, the way his eyes lingered on my face. Something warm unfurled in my chest, something that felt dangerously like hope. Miguel? I turned to face him fully. Thank you. For being here. For being you. Always, he said again, softer this time. Behind us, Emma and Terrence were taking photos. Bradley was somewhere in the crowd. Mom was watching me with worried eyes. But for just a moment, none of that mattered. For just a moment, there was only Miguel's smile, the warmth of his hand in mine, and the possibility of something new. Then Emma's voice cut through the crowd. Family photos. And reality crashed back in. The storm was coming. I could feel it building. But this time I wasn't alone. The reception was in full swing when Emma clinked her glass for the toasts. My stomach churned as the best man finished his speech and the microphone was passed around. Heidi, Emma's voice carried across the room, would you like to say something about your sister? The room went quiet. 200 pairs of eyes turned to me. Miguel's hand found my knee under the table. You don't have to, he whispered, but I was already standing, taking the microphone. 5 years of pain, of therapy, of rebuilding myself. It all led to this moment. My sister and I began, my voice steady, are identical twins. We shared everything growing up. Clothes, friends, secrets. Some people couldn't tell us apart, but Bradley could. Couldn't you, Bradley? Heads turned toward him. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Heidi, Emma's warning tone carried across the silent room. No, let me finish. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You see, Bradley was my husband, and Emma was my sister, and they shared something too, an affair that destroyed my marriage and my trust in both of them. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Terrence stood up, his face tight with concern. But this isn't about them, I continued. This is about what happens after betrayal, about who you become when the people closest to you tear your world apart. Emma was crying now, silent tears tracking through her perfect makeup. Mom had her hand pressed to her mouth. I became someone stronger, someone who helps others through their darkest moments, someone who learned that survival isn't about revenge. It's about rising above the pain. I turned to face Terrence. You asked me for the truth, and I gave it to you. You chose to stay, to believe in second chances. That makes you a better person than I was able to be. Heidi, please. Emma stood up, reaching for me. I'm not finished. My voice cracked slightly, because this isn't just about the past. It's about now, about choices, about forgiveness. The room was so quiet you could hear the ice clinking in glasses. Emma, you asked me to be here today, to stand with you. I couldn't do that, not because I hate you, but because I needed to stand on my own, to show you, to show everyone, that what you did didn't break me. It transformed me. I looked at Bradley, meeting his eyes for the first time in years. You thought you were destroying me. Both of you did. But you gave me something instead. The strength to rebuild myself into someone who wouldn't let your choices define her life. Miguel was watching me with pride shining in his eyes. Mom was crying openly now. So here's my toast to the happy couple. I raised my glass. May your marriage be built on truth, not lies. On trust, not betrayal. And may you both remember that sometimes the greatest act of love isn't protecting someone from consequences. It's letting them face them and grow. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, from somewhere in the back, someone started clapping. Others joined in, a slow build of applause that felt more like recognition than celebration. Emma rushed toward me, mascara streaking her cheeks. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. And for the first time in 5 years, I let her hug me. Not because I'd forgiven her, but because I was finally strong enough to show her that her actions hadn't destroyed me. Terrence appeared beside us, his face solemn. Thank you. he said quietly, for telling the truth. All of it. Bradley tried to approach, but Miguel stepped between us, his presence a silent wall of protection. I think you've done enough, Miguel said, his voice low but firm. Mom reached us next, pulling both Emma and me into her arms like we were children again. My girls, she whispered. My beautiful, complicated girls. The reception continued around us, but something had shifted. The perfect facade was cracked, but maybe that's where the light gets in. Later, as Miguel and I danced slowly under the twinkling lights, he pulled me closer. You okay? He asked softly. Better than okay. I rested my head on his shoulder. I feel free. You were amazing up there. I had good backup. He chuckled, the sound rumbling through his chest. Always. Across the room, Emma and Terrence were dancing too, their heads bent together in serious conversation. Bradley had left. Someone said he'd slipped out right after my speech. Want to get out of here? Miguel asked. God, yes. As we left, Emma caught my eye and mouthed, "Thank you." Not for keeping her secret, but for telling the truth in a way that gave her a chance to be better. I nodded once, then let Miguel lead me out into the night, where the stars were bright and the future was finally, beautifully, my own to write. Miguel's car pulled up to the beach just as the sun was rising. We'd driven all night, leaving the wedding and its aftermath behind us, stopping only for coffee and gas. This is where you wanted to come? He looked at me curiously. This is where I came after Bradley left. I stepped out of the car, letting the salt air fill my lungs. I sat here for hours, watching the waves, thinking my life was over. Miguel followed me onto the sand, our formal clothes completely out of place. And now? Now I know it was just beginning. I slipped off my heels, letting my feet sink into the cool sand. I got 3 texts from Emma during the drive. What did she say? I pulled out my phone. First one, I understand now. Second, Terrence and I talked all night. Third, when you're ready, I'd like to try again, as sisters, for real this time. Are you ready? No. I walked toward the water's edge, but I'm not angry anymore either. My phone buzzed again. Mom, both my daughters are stronger than I ever knew. I love you. She's right, you know, Miguel said, coming to stand beside me. What you did last night, that took incredible strength. It wasn't strength, it was just truth. Same thing sometimes. The waves crashed against the shore, a rhythm as old as time. My dress was getting sandy, and my carefully styled hair was coming loose in the ocean breeze. I keep thinking about Bradley's face when I was speaking, I said. He looked small, like he finally realized what he'd thrown away. His loss. Miguel's hand found mine. My gain. I turned to face him, really looking at him for the first time since we'd left the wedding. His tie was loose, his jacket discarded in the car, and his eyes held something that made my heart skip. Miguel, I've been waiting, he said softly. For 2 years, I've been waiting for you to be ready. To see me as more than just your friend, your backup. I see you. The words came out barely above a whisper. I've always seen you. I was just scared. And now, instead of answering, I kissed him. He tasted like coffee and possibility, his arms wrapping around me as the sun painted the sky in pinks and golds. My phone buzzed again. Serenity. How are you holding up? I texted back one-handed, not leaving Miguel's embrace. Found my strength, and something more. Something more? Miguel read over my shoulder, grinning. Don't let it go to your head. Too late. A final text came through. Emma, I filed for a marriage annulment this morning. Terrence agreed. We're going to start over, do things right this time. I owe you that much. I showed Miguel the message. Karma really does come full circle, doesn't it? It's not karma, he said, brushing sand from my cheek. It's growth, for both of you. The sun was fully up now, turning the ocean into a sheet of diamonds. I thought about Emma and Terrence, choosing truth over convenience. About Mom, loving us through our mistakes. About Bradley, walking away again, but this time from his own choices. Take me home? I asked Miguel. Your place or mine? Surprise me. As we walked back to the car, I sent one final text to Emma. Starting over takes courage. I'm proud of you. Her response was immediate. I'm proud of you too. For everything. Miguel started the car, and I kicked off my sandy shoes, propping my feet on the dashboard. The morning stretched ahead of us, full of promise and new beginnings. You know, Miguel said as we pulled away from the beach, most people don't end up finding themselves at their twin sister's wedding. Most people don't have my life. True. He glanced at me, smiling. Want to get breakfast? I know this great little place. As long as they serve mimosas. It's that kind of morning, huh? It's that kind of life. I reached for his hand, but I wouldn't have it any other way. The road stretched ahead of us, leading away from the past and toward something new, something real, something that felt like healing and hope and home all at once. And for the first time in 5 years, I was completely, utterly at peace with where I was going. Not because of revenge or justice or even forgiveness, but because I'd finally learned that the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else's happiness. It's about building your own. And with Miguel's hand in mine and the morning sun warming my face, that's exactly what I plan to do. One truth, one day, one moment at a time.